Hello there, welcome to the Texas Real Estate Show here on a Thursday. And whether you want this hat or whether you want this hat, howdy there. It's a bit miserable and cold out there today, isn't it, James?
Just a little bit, man. Hopefully this is a little bit over this little bipolar weather we've been having here. I'm hoping.
I was saying to one of my colleagues downstairs, I said, this is just not Texas weather. We are not used to, it's 40 degrees outside.
Exactly. That is not us.
We're not used to this weather. Come on, let's get it going a little bit.
I saw a video the other day. This guy, he does like kind of like brand battles, Taco Bell versus Chick-fil-A and Popeyes and so on and so forth. So he got Texas on there saying, we aren't scared of anything. We ain't scared. He used a little bit of profanity. But, like a tornado comes on, it's like, oh, I'm not scared of you. Then a hurricane comes on, oh, I'm not scared of you. Then there's like one other thing that pops, some other natural disaster pops up. And then here comes this freezing like thermometer. I said, hey, Texas. Said, didn't I tell you don't have to come outside anymore? And Texas is all shivering. He's like, yes, Daddy. We can't deal with the cold. We're not made for the cold, man. That's not our thing.
Yeah,
Come on.
My daughter's doing a PhD out in St. Marcos, and her property manager called her up because we've leased a house for her over there and said, I know you're not in St. Marcos at the moment. Can you come home and just turn your taps on and drip your taps? So she had to leave early. So anyway, what have we got to talk about today at the Texas Real Estate Show? We've got some pretty interesting stuff actually today. So, as always, I'm going to hand over to James on the word that may. First of all, let's just go into. We don't give advice. What we basically do is we want to be a center for investors. Not necessarily. We can't give advice. We're just talking about it, making suggestions for entertainment purposes only.
These are opinions.
Yeah, they're just general opinions. So. James, I'm going to hand this one over to you because I feel that you have a bigger interest in this. The word that the Fed made stocks fall in love, all right, with the morning brief. What's your feeling on that? I mean, how do you feel the Feds have affected our stock market?
Oh, well, shoot. It ain't the Feds that affect the stock market, man. It's people
Nasdaq's
being out squirrely.
Nasdaq's up 338 points.
Yeah, people kind of being squirrely about their decisions on how they do things. So it's down a bit this morning, but yesterday there was Fed meeting and they did increase the overnight interest rates.
378 Nasdaq.
No, not that was you were looking at yesterday's numbers.
No, I'm not. In front of me.
You talking about the Nasdaq?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking at the Dow.
Oh, okay. No,
Sorry.
that 50.
We know where we have our money.
80 points. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got mining tech.
Yeah, Nasdaq is definitely up big, but yesterday the Feds had their meeting and they increased rates another quarter, and quite frankly, this is not a surprise. It's almost kind of baked in. I would say even for the next couple of meetings to anticipate at least a quarter jump from their interest rates. Now, I'm going to say this. Put the camera here. This is not mortgage rates. These are short-term rates that the banks lend to one another overnight for their funds. Short-term stuff.
The
credit
boys.
cards.
This is the
car
rate
loans,
that the boys
pay each other, right? Not for mortgage rates. Hear me. This is not for mortgage rates. This actually is a good thing for mortgage rates. So we're hoping that with these hikes, which is trying to help inflation come down, will help with mortgage interest rates and allow people to kind of get back on the ladder to buy homes, because that's very, very important. But in doing that, man, the stock market just kind of reacts from the news.
So that's what I can never understand.
Yeah.
The Fed rate goes up and the stock market goes up.
Well, sometimes.
But 80% of the time it does.
Because the hope is, of course, to make the gain.
What is it? Because people don't want to invest in bonds anymore?
Well,
so they'd rather put the money in stocks?
Well, not necessarily, because usually when the Fed rate goes up and in hopes to bring the inflation down, it's a positive move on the bonds. So, it's just kind of one of those things where people just react. And it really depends on which one, because we're like right now, NASDAQ is up, but the Dow is down over 100 points. So it just really depends on where you have your money in the market. It's a gamble. That's all it is. It's a gamble.
And
You
you're
got
right.
it?
The Dow is the Dow's down by 137 at the moment. Nas is up by 372. S&P is up by 55. Interesting.
Yep. They're kind of all over the place, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All over the place. But for us in the mortgage industry, real estate, we're hoping to see this shift where people can get back out there and continue to buy homes because it's important. It is important to do that to stimulate this
One of
economy.
the things that I just want to talk about, and Everett, you can clip this later on, is now is the time to buy a house because although you're paying a higher interest rate, all right, the competition is less, isn't it? It's a more of a flatter market.
Right.
Well, in saying that, one of my agents came in yesterday and said they paid $10,000 above the market value of a house, and they still didn't get it for a house. And a lot of it, you'll see these things about. We're going to talk about one later on. There's going to be a housing crash, and this is going to happen, and everything's going to happen. But it all depends on two things, correct, James? Location and
and the
price.
price.
Remember, the
Yeah.
two things it matters. And in the South, along Florida and all along the South, we don't get the variances that they do on the East Coast or the West Coast.
Yeah.
Why? Because when prices go up, they don't go up as much as.
A lot of those places don't even have the land to build on. You think about if you ever visited New York or Chicago, proper. There's no grass around to start building anything, so they build up, and they got those things. When you come down into the South, we have land that you can actually put these properties on. So there's different. We don't see that huge jump at times. In the prices. Now we do see it, but we've been blessed enough not to be so bombarded with the losses that takes place in a lot of other areas. So I'm thankful. But I'm ready for the rebound, man. I'm ready for the bottom, so we can move on back up, get some loans closed,
Yeah,
and get people in homes.
absolutely. And then the other part I need your inputs on, James, is what the Fed's interest rate hikes mean to the housing market. I mean, what's your general feel on that?
Well, my general feel is like I've said, months ago, that about in the first quarter, second quarter going into it, we'll kind of start to see a shift back to where we can get interest rates, not back to the 2% range, but at least to a point to where people are feeling more comfortable, purchasing versus this 7 and 7.25 stuff that we were seeing, a month or two ago. I think people were just afraid because they've never seen it. They've never seen the interest rates above 5, much less over 6%.
Absolutely. First house I bought,
Right.
18.2%.
Yeah. So it was just
I was just grateful to buy my first house in America.
absolutely. And many people should be feeling the same way in that case, right? Go.
And I still made on the house.
Yeah, you will.
All right.
You won't
I
lose.
bought it, I think, for $94,000.
You won't lose.
And then when we sold it, and it wasn't long after, maybe 5 or 6 years, I think we sold it for like nearly 200,000.
Yeah, double. Yeah, so I'm not going to say you're going to get double the equity out of it, but if you buy now, it's better because one thing real estate will do is appreciate. It will. It's going to go up. It may come down some, but it usually doesn't come down below to what it started at. So you can't really lose in getting it. But I think these rate hikes, along with bringing inflation down, it lines up. Inflation controls where interest rates are going to go for mortgages. So if inflation comes down, mortgage rates come down. So we'll be able to get more people into homes, which will start kind of jumpstarting the market again with, people either selling or getting out there in the market and, at least trying to buy something and stop renting.
And one of the motivations that I see happening out there is, unfortunately, because the monthly mortgages are going up, especially for investors, and you've got a lot of corporate investors coming into our market. We represent some corporate investors coming in, buying single-family residences, one because of the cheap land, but also because they can build brand new houses. But basically, what's happening is, they can build the house, and it's pushing up the cost of the rents. So the rents are going up, and and I just can't believe when I see all these videos on YouTube and it says, "Don't buy a house, rent for the rest of your life."
Stupid.
That's right, just rent for. I mean, I'm a landlord. I'm okay with that. Just go ahead and rent for the rest of your life and pay me. Pay me my monthly rent.
Yeah.
Just make sure you pay me on time, because if not, there's a constable knocking on your door, and just carry on. And I just cannot believe that that's the nonsense that people are listening to.
Well, you also got to realize that a lot
Yeah.
of these videos that are being posted are from California, which in that case, buying a house over there is only affordable to you, to the top percenters. And
Well,
and that's the video that constantly keeps getting all these. Oh, don't buy a house, just rent for the rest of your life. It's just like.
Well, yeah, some people in some areas like that, they can't afford.
They can't
buy.
afford to buy a house
Yeah.
in California, because to buy a house in California, you've got to earn $1 million a year.
Pretty much.
But I mean, in Texas, it's a lot lower.
Yeah.
You know.
Texas, Nevada, and Indiana. are
And
the
we've
ones-
got to put the information out there so folks know, hey, not that we need everybody moving to Texas. Don't get me wrong.
Like I said.
Yeah,
Texas,
we don't need it,
Indiana,
yeah.
Indiana and Nevada.
But
Go to those freaking states.
You
That's
need
all.
to know that there are other options other than where
But
you
the-
are.
Right, and the other part is, what people must remember is, one of the downsides in moving to Texas is property taxes.
Oh, yes, for sure. Be ready.
Yeah, November, December, on all my rental properties recently, it was just utterly devastating.
Well, we got at least the one yesterday. We got that one done. You didn't
Yeah,
have to
we
worry
did. That
about
was a
deal.
loan that you sort of
Yeah.
helped me with to cash out, so we can get everything taken care of, and now
Yeah.
we're starting off, which is good. So let's talk about this that one of our agents put in. Blanca Ortiz, who's one of our residential agents, and she's also on our commercial team. There's new rules for Houston sidewalks. And basically, Houston are charging, what they're basically doing is they are charging people if they don't want, is that right? If they don't want sidewalks, I've lost my screen.
Oh, yeah. I think I
It's
had
up
it pulled
there,
up.
too, So.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so there you go. A new ordinance in the city of Houston will allow builders, homeowners, and developers to opt out of putting sidewalks in front of your homes. Houston City Council voted in favor of the ordinance on Wednesday. The fee in lieu of sidewalk construction ordinance will go into effect March the 1st under the new rule. Sidewalks can be omitted from new construction for a fee of $12 per square foot that would have been built. So what it's basically saying is, if you want to put in, for builders, if you're building a new house and you decide not to put in a sidewalk, and I think Houston is terrible, it needs more sidewalks, and this isn't an encouragement for that at all, then basically it's going to cost the builders $12 a square foot where the sidewalk would have been built.
So just to give some backstory on this, typically when you have a community being built, there are sidewalks out in front of the homes for pedestrians, so they're not walking in the streets. We've dealt with this in our neighborhoods where we had sidewalks, and the homeowner, funny enough, although it's a public walk, anybody can walk on it, is responsible for repairs of the sidewalk. Now, that sometimes they make you put trees out there, and we know trees can tear up sidewalks. So a lot of folks are like, no, I don't want to have to deal with that. But in this ordinance, if you are omitting the sidewalk from the new construction, they're charging you a $12 per square foot fee to not have something. And the goal is to put that money into a fund that will, if you choose not to have a sidewalk, will actually be able to build or connect this network of sidewalks in the city. So it's almost kind of contradictory of sorts. It doesn't make any sense. But it's supposed to help that. I don't understand why it's that way. But simply put, if you're building or rebuilding your neighborhood and it doesn't have sidewalks, they're not going to build it or pay for unconnected segments
Well,
of the sidewalk. So that that
in some
doesn't help
ways I
with what they
agree
want
with
to
you.
go
In some
with.
ways I don't agree with you.
Well, the deal with it is it doesn't help.
I've always thought that Houston is terrible for sidewalks. It doesn't have the sidewalks in the neighborhoods that it has.
It doesn't.
In my neighborhood that I live in is just 28 houses that were. It's called Richmond Road Estates. It's basically it was a farm originally, and they just split it up into little acreage spots. And we don't have sidewalks. So if you decide to go for a walk at night and it's dark at night, I guess what you're doing? You're walking in the dark in the middle of the street. You've got to be real careful, especially with them bullets that we shown you the other day. So I really feel that, in Houston, that's part of the problem. You've got to have a car. If you want to get anywhere, you've got to have a car. You can't walk. And if you want a bike, it's even worse.
Yeah.
If you want to cycle, I love Amsterdam. That's my favorite city. Because in Amsterdam,
City of bikes.
you can cycle everywhere, and then of course in the winter we've got the canals, and you can skate down the canals.
Plus free weed.
Well, I don't know if it's free. You might have to pay for your weed. What else have we got out there? Let's go through to the next topic, which you put in. The 2023 housing market crash. Why is nobody living in these houses? Let's have a look at this short video, and then we'd like to discuss this because we disagree totally with this.
Hold on, yeah, let's get this going.
It's true, but it's not true, in my opinion.
Get that going. Okay. Audio's open. Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
This is why the 2023 housing crash is going to be bad. Because when I walk around communities like this, which you can see this is a new home building site, there's no one living here. No cars in the driveways. Hundreds more under construction. There's going to be a deluge and a dump of new inventory onto the U.S. housing market like we have never seen before. It's really through driving around America over the last couple of months and seeing this stuff with my own eyes, seeing these houses, these empty houses that are about to be completed, that I realized that this housing crash is just in stage one. 9 months ago, they were selling for $430,000. Now they're selling for $370,000. But they've only sold half of these, and they're gonna have to cut the price by even more.
All right, let's stop there. Okay. First of all, we've already mentioned it in the Texas Real Estate Show this morning. There's two reasons why houses don't sell, and that is one, the price. He's already mentioned the price, so at least he's on that number. But the second thing is the location, and I want to know
where he is.
Because when you look, he doesn't state where he is. We looked and we couldn't see. Is he in the middle of nowhere? Is he in the middle of a farmyard with them because normally new construction, what do? They build miles away from any city in anticipation that there's going to be growth. I don't think there's going to be a market housing crash. I think it's just people wanting to get clicks and wanting to get attention. I just don't think there is. To be perfectly honest, if I had the money, if people have got a problem with that price of 300, if people overbought and overpaid for a house last year, they've only got themselves to blame.
Those are the ones that I think will have
Them are
issues.
the people that are going to have problems with the housing market.
These folks that he's talking about, they're empty. They won't be empty for long if you bring the price down, because we know builders overprice stuff.
Right.
So they had
And
him
he
at four.
should know that.
They had him at 430.
If he's a consulting company,
Yeah.
he should know that builders overprice their properties.
Absolutely.
And and I personally am very strong on, I think the government need to step in to stop what builders do, because if they build a community just like that, they'll sell one of them properties for $450,000 because they'll give incentives away to people, so it comes out to around $450,000. Then they've got a comp for one of them houses.
Right. And that's what they use to sell.
And that's
later.
And that's a process that new home builders use. How do you stop that? I don't know.
Well, let me say this. if they sold it for 430 9 months ago, as he put it, and now it's for 370 less than a year later, that just tells me it was never worth 430.
To start off with in the first place.
Period.
Right. So
Because homes don't depreciate like that.
So where's the housing crash?
Here's what I think will happen. If he's talking about a crash, it'll be to the pockets of some of the builders, because they're going to have to come down on the price of those homes.
Which they, in all fairness to the gentleman, they've started. They've started that.
They already have.
We've had some of the builders in Houston where they've dropped there was one I was looking at the other day. They dropped their price $120,000.
And it'll be even more than that. But people feel like they got a deal. Oh, I got a deal. They gave me a $50,000 discount. They gave me $12,000 towards incentives. Well, that's because the house is overpriced. You're paying too much for the house. So there's room in there for us to, quote unquote, give you a deal. And many don't realize that. You guys have the largest, hold on. You guys have the largest lobbying group, right? Mm-hmm. But not many feel the way you feel about builders. There's some realtors that all they do is hang out in the builder communities. That's all they do is take their customer to the builders, to those communities that give the incentives.
Well,
and they're really not helping them. It is. It really is.
Because what do they fill in? There's no paperwork. There's no contract. A lot of the inexperienced agents, they don't negotiate. That's why I say to everybody, if you can't go in to a new home builder and negotiate something off the price, the agent's not doing their job.
You're not. It's like taking
negotiate something, whether it's closing costs,
yeah,
whether it's they give you a free party on your birthday. I don't care. Just negotiate something.
Right.
Because them builders need your business. And it upset me so much when we had last year where there was some builders and they wasn't paying agent commission. And it was basically, we don't need you. We know it's an easy sell.
Yep.
You don't do anything for this. And I'm like, really? The tide will turn. And have a guess what? Here we are a year later and the tide has turned.
They're begging.
Now they're offering BTSA as a bonus to selling agent.
Yep.
They're offering additional money. And I really feel that, yes, what this guy's talking about, there's places over the country that it's happening. I watched a video yesterday where there's a lot of problems in Florida. Prices are starting to drop in Florida. Mm-hmm. Days, what do they call it, when they haven't paid their mortgage for 90 days, are rising in Florida, particularly on not the Gulf side, the other side.
Okay.
Well, they've just had a hurricane through that.
Right.
So, defaults. So defaults over 90 days is rising in Florida.
Okay.
And there's not much on the Gulf side, but on the other side. But that could be because of who knows? That could be because of the hurricane. And then the last thing we're going to talk about today is, I feel what's happening in general is within the housing market in Texas, because it's getting harder for people to pay rentals, and rental properties are going up. And traditionally, rental market prices were going up 3 to 5% a year. With my rentals, I've tried to keep my increases between 3 and 5%, but because of homeowners association fees, property taxes going up, and just general prices of the houses going up, I really have had to look at increasing more between 10 and 15% on some of my houses. And I really have had to work at, keeping something moderate to, I guess I'm a little bit, it depends who it is. If somebody pays on time, I'm a little bit more lenient. Mm-hmm. If somebody doesn't pay me on time, then that becomes questionable. But one of the results has been, because the rentals are going up, or the cost of rentals are going up, that now the number of multifamily housing is up by, it was up by 29% in 2022 for people building multifamily housing construction.
Right.
Because people are moving over to, they'd rather lease What's your feelings on that, James?
Well, I think we're going to start seeing, and not just like apartments. I think we'll even start seeing the multifamily, people, the duplexes and the fourplexes, where people will live in one and be landlords to the others.
Good
I'm
luck
seeing
with
more
that,
of that.
guys.
I'm seeing more of that. Just here recently, people inquiring about. But the problem is, you don't see a whole lot of multifamilies out there for sale. At least I haven't seen a lot.
I think that's the problem, though. If you look at, let's look at Houston, okay? In the center of Houston, you're paying a lot of money for a house, whether it be a townhome, regardless what it is, you're paying a lot of money for that. But there's a lot of companies now, corporate companies coming in and building multifamily housing construction. We've just lost one of our employees that's moved to Dallas, that was asked to move there, to go manage a multifamily facility. Right. And she's up there working in Dallas, working as an agent and at a multifamily. So that in itself has been interesting. But I thought it was interesting how people are moving over to, to the multifamilies. I personally, I don't know how I feel about people wanting to buy a multifamily, because there's more to it than people. There's a lot more to it. I mean, we do it through the commercial department, and we have experts that do it, and they work out the cash on cash and different things, and the debt ratios, and it's not easy to do. And if you're looking at it from a development standpoint, we've got one agent in the office that actually built, I think she built like a 50-unit apartment building, and it took her like 3 years. And she said it was tough on her, and it wasn't just tough on her, it was tough on her family as well. It was anyway. Anything you want to add, Mr. James?
Well, here's what I want to say. If you haven't bought a home yet, it's time to buy a home. If you are qualified, don't wait. There's no wave of crash coming. And this is not just us. These are actual, just Google it. Just Google, is there a housing crash coming 2023? And you'll see most of the experts are agreeing with us. There just is not to say that nothing will happen, because anything's possible, but is it probable that it will happen? And the answer is no. There's just not enough data showing us that there's going to be a crash, because there are people that still want to buy a home, and you should still want to buy a home, because it's, most cases, to your point, having to go up on your rent, it's cheaper than renting. In the long run, it's cheaper than rent. So get with a professional that can get you qualified based on your income and your assets, or maybe even get you set up with some kind of program that can help you with the down payment if you need that. And then, of course, with a qualified agent that can show you homes and negotiate for you in your behalf, so you can get out there and buy your home. It's time to do it.
Right. And I think it's a good time to buy.
It is. And we know a loan officer that can help you.
We do. Do you know what his name is?
Yes. TheLeeGroupLoans.com.
There you go. So if you want to, if not, you can always reach out to me. My name's Steve Williams. I'm the broker owner of Century 21 Olympian. We're down in Houston, Texas, and also Lake Jackson, which is near the coast. So we do a lot of vacation properties down there. You've got the Brazos River, which is a great place for a second home.
Yes.
And actually, they've been pretty busy. January and February. I've never known an office like it. January, February, and March, they are really busy. Have a guess why? Let's talk about location. Because people are buying and selling their homes for vacation homes for the summer. And so, we've got some great agents down there.
Yep.
So anyway, with that being said, I think it's time to wrap up. We've done our little bit for today. We hope you all have a good week.
Yes. Stay warm.
Please stay warm, because it's, how long have we got?
I think we're on the tail end. This is the last day of the craziness, I believe.
I hope so.
Yes, we should be
better. I
better.
work weekends and I come into the office and it's cold. But with that being said, we wish you all the best. As we say in England, we hope you all have a good day. Smile, be happy, and most of all, peace. Take care.